Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program and the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, many times you've told us that most buyers start their search online and many will actually meet a real estate agent from that search. What do buyer's agents do these days?
It's interesting, Richard, because in the old days when I first started, the internet was just kind of getting started. I had a website, which everybody went, "Wow, you have a website." Of course, I didn't know what to do with it. But here's what happened: is that when everything went online, technology basically took all the listings and made them publicly available. Where before, the only way you could find out about homes for sale is you'd have to go meet with an agent and they controlled the inventory. We used to have these white phone books, with one black and white picture. So it's come a long way. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear the buyers say, "Well, I found the house. The agent didn't find me the house." Well, that's because all of the listings are online. They assume that it's the buyer's agent to find the house, and they could still do that if they wanted to work a little harder. I've sold a bunch of homes that never hit the market before, and sold them to our database of buyers, because they already indicated to us they were looking for a home like that. The seller was ready to go. "I want to sell fast. Let's do it." So there are situations where homes are sold that are not on the internet. And the way it works, the multiple listing service, which is basically a database of homes for sale collected by local real estate clubs. So our club is the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors. You have to be a member to put your listing in there. Well, maybe not. You don't necessarily have to be a member. You have to pay your dues, but your name won't be on your listing if you do. And then they take that software and they display it online as homes available for sale. So when everything went online back in the whenever that was, the probably early 2000s, Realtor.com was the first website that took all the 1,500 different MLSs with their 1,500 different software, combined it as one website, and displayed it for the public to find. Because like a couple years ago, we helped our son buy a home out in California. I have insider knowledge, right? And I tried to go into what I was hoping to be the public version of the MLS for that area, and I couldn't get in. I had to go to Zillow or Realtor.com or one of the tech company sites that took all these different softwares and displayed it as one website. And they're much more user-friendly than most of the local MLSs. And now I'm finding that even real estate agents that are within the market don't even read the MLS anymore. They just react to a buyer lead that they might have met or they might have paid for from the tech companies. So the system is kind of messed up. And so that's how Zillow became a billion-dollar company. They did the same thing Realtor.com did. They created a better mousetrap. And so they would put these listings out there, whether they were valid or not. A buyer would raise their hand and say, "Hey, I want to see that home." And they would sell that buyer lead to the real estate agents that would pay them a lot of money for a handful of buyer leads in that zip code. That's how they got so rich. And they still do that to this day. Now, the rules have changed a little bit. One of the rules is that technically you're supposed to have an agreement with the agent about how their fee is going to get paid prior to showing the home. But we have tested it. And guess what? If you try to throw an agreement in front of a buyer that wants to see that home that they saw on Zillow, they'll go get somebody else to do it. They're not gonna play. So it's unfortunate that these tech companies kind of trumped the whole situation. And that's basically still to this day how it works. I predict that all these little local MLSs eventually are gonna either merge or just go away. Like certain areas, like the Pueblo MLS is a dinosaur and a beast. It's very difficult to work with. That's why I don't like participating in that one. But I found that if I just put my listings up on my local MLS and out on the tech company websites, the buyers are going to find it anyway. So that's one thing that really changed in our world probably in the last 20 years. And so recently a young person wrote this article that said, what do real estates really do? What do real estate agents really do anymore anyway? And the research he did is like, well, I can find homes, I can get my own financing, I could figure out the process by searching online. I know about taxes. The only thing they really do is show you homes and maybe negotiate. That was his opinion. So and he probably is right. I mean, I hear buyers even to this day will say, well, when I worked with the last agent, I was the one that found the house. In other words, what they do is they'll if they are an active agent, they might actually set up a search where they're getting homes delivered to the buyer electronically from either from the MLS or whatever website that they have, right? And they'll just go, oh, go look at it, buyer. And if you want to see it, I'm here, right? So they become kind of like overpaid door openers. And a lot of people think, a lot of agents think that the way they articulate their values by getting discounts or concessions for their seller. In fact, many of them have gone so far as to actually completely abdicate everything that I think they should be doing, tracking the contract, attending the inspection, negotiating for repairs if need be, making sure everything is going along with the process, right? But they hand it off to these unlicensed admin people called transaction coordinators and just kind of ghost you until the end. And then, oh, we don't like the way the repairs are being done. And if you don't do it our way, we're going to walk away from the closing at the finish line. So it's really frustrating because sellers often are paying the buyer's agent fee. So, and unfortunately, the public assumes that all agents are trained on things like how to sell, how to close, how to negotiate, how to market, how to provide service, how to build them into lifetime clients that refer businesses. They don't do that. A lot of them are very transactional and they're in and out on the sale and they're gone. And that's pretty sad to me. So I remember early in my career asking my broker, so how do I get business anyway? And he told me just to pick up the phone and call people on the phone book, which really is pretty much illegal anymore. But still to this day, I know real estate companies teach their agents to go knock on doors to get business. Now, would you answer a door if a real estate agent said, will you sell your house?
I would not answer the door. And if I did, I'd close the door because I don't want anybody showing up to sell me anything, much less to ask something like that. There's so much fraud out there, so much,
Yeah.
people being ripped off for their identities. I wouldn't trust somebody knocking on my door. That's crazy.
Right. So up until, a little over a year ago, the agents, if they actually brought the contract that went to closing, they were entitled to whatever commission was advertised in the MLS. Now they have to actually negotiate for their fee. Most of the time they're asking the seller to pay their fee, but there's still this entitlement of whatever was negotiated, regardless of the performance, right? And so still to this day, these lawsuits are going on. So it was the listing agent commission. Now it's the buyer's agent commission. And it's not over yet. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. So many times home sellers get very frustrated at the activity that happens when they go on the market. This is very, very common stuff. And so I have to field these complaints from sellers. Well, the agent was late. The agent was early. The agent no showed. And I took my kids and dogs and left the house and then they never showed and they never canceled. I've had agents leave the keys in the door. That just happened to me last week. I had another agent that left the combo right there in the box. All you had to do was flip it open and you could get in the house. A couple of years back on a house that was priced very low, where we're getting showing after showing, the seller was it was an inherited home. She was asking me, how come these agents don't lock doors, or how come they don't turn the lights off? Why are they doing this? I'm like, that's my life, having to field those complaints. But I finally reached a point where I had had enough, when some agent took the key out of the digital lockbox and stuck it inside the house, in the service door, in the lock, so nobody else could get in the home. Okay. I said, that's it. We can't trust them in this house. We are going to cease showings. We're going to hold 3 open houses where we control access, and they can submit their offers. And we went on to get, I think it was 25 or 40 offers on the house, and it sold very quickly. But trusting them to go in and out, I see just consistent disrespect for other people's properties. And I can't teach them that. I'm not their mama. I'm not their broker. I was actually 10 years in the business before anybody taught me how to show a house, so I don't think it's an industry norm and standard to teach common sense and good equity and good consideration for other people's stuff. So my team doesn't do that. They're trained properly. They know how to help buyers. They know how to bring benefits to the buyers that will help them get what they want. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
So, Barb, why do you think that there's such a huge turnover when it comes to real estate agents?
Well, I think the hardest part is for the agents to find business. They assume it's just going to drop in their laps, and it doesn't. And the problem is there's just no training. Just last weekend, I asked my Marine son, I said, hey, what would it be like if your platoon had to go do a job and there was no training, no standard procedure, no nothing? He goes, it'd be a disaster. They have guns, and they're teenagers with guns. So I said, well, at least real estate's not dangerous, but there is no job description. There's no how-to on selling, negotiating, closing, the process, all that stuff. And unfortunately, in the previous year, Zillow told us that 71% of agents sold 0 homes. 9 out of 10 agents leave the business every 5 years, and a lot of them have other jobs. Why is that? Because the industry is not teaching them how to get business, keep business, and grow their business. And it's sad to me, but I think it's going to probably get better going forward than otherwise. I've got lots and lots of stories about that. But if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. It airs every week. Right now, we're going to talk about your hot new listings, Barb. What do you have?
Well, I have a couple of homes that are owned by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs that represent really good deals. One out in Yoder on 35 acres at $199 on Danview. One up in Florissant on 2 acres at $240 on County Road 100. A beautiful townhome in the southwest part of town at $299. Great home on Meade at $325. Another home owned by the VA on Bramble at $365. Gorgeous home in Stetson Hills, Ridgeview, $365. Beautiful home near UCCS on Troy Court at $434. New to the market this week, stunning home that backs to open space on Stable Court at $539.9 in Briargate. A spectacular home on 1 acre on Ross Drive at $759. And we've got many others, one on Stevens Drive in Florissant in the Low Forest, and also Capitol Peak Way out in Peyton, Broadmoor Bluffs that backs to NORAD, and a couple of fantastic lots. So you can find out about all of our properties if you go to barbhasthebuyers.com and click on featured homes, I think is the name of the button, or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice, airs every Saturday. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit BarbHasTheBuyers.com. You can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or listen to the podcast on all of the popular platforms like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thanks for listening this week. Again, reach out to Barb at 719-301-3900. Barb, you have a great week. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.